Last month I told you how squirrely my sons are. This time I'm going to tell you about the beginning of one of them. I found out I was pregnant, and I was just, having a normal pregnancy. Everything was fine, but then I was praying one day about, the baby and everything, and I had a feeling, a really strong sense that there was going to be something wrong with this pregnancy. Well, I just went on with time, and a few months later, a friend of mine came up to me who was totally unaware of the warning, and she came up to me and said, I think you need to memorize this certain scripture. I think you're going to need that when the baby's born. Okay, I totally ignored her. All right, so then my mom sent me a letter. She doesn't know the friend. She doesn't know about the warning. She tells me the same thing, the same scripture. Okay, that's curious. A few weeks later, a magazine article shows up at my door, whole article on this particular scripture, telling you to memorize it. I think, okay, I'm not that stupid. I think I got it, all right? So I memorized it. All right. I was told about a month before my son was born that he was transverse, which means sideways inside of me, and that unless he turned, there was going to have to be a cesarean section. Well, about a week after that prognosis, I was watching TV with my little one, my 3-year-old at the time, because I wasn't feeling good. It was 3 weeks early before this baby should be coming. Water hadn't broken, but I was feeling really odd. So I just stayed in bed and played with my 3-year-old all day. And now it's late at night, and it's about 1:30 in the morning, actually, 1 o'clock in the morning. And my husband had gone to my 3-year-old's room to sleep because I was awake. I was going to keep him awake. I was watching TV. I was uncomfortable. I was tossing and turning. A phone call to the doctor earlier that day had resulted in, just wait until you actually get a contraction and then time them until they're 5 minutes apart. So I had ignored what had been going on all day because they weren't contractions. I just felt odd. All right, about 1 o'clock in the morning, it hit me. And it hit me hard. And I had what I dang well knew was a contraction. And so I thought, okay, time to time them, right? 2 minutes later came another one. About a minute and a half later came another one. I'm hollering to my husband because we have fans or air conditioners or something going, and I couldn't get up to go get him. So I'm hollering, trying to get him to hear me. When he finally came downstairs, he goes, "Why'd you wait so long?" So he called the paramedics. They were there within probably 30 seconds, maybe a little more than that, but it was less than a minute. Here's the thing. They had been called out on a false call down the street. And when my husband called them, they were right there. So they came over, and the paramedic, I remember him looking in my eyes, and there was a flash, there was a hesitancy, because he's not allowed to do what he was about to do. He's supposed to take me to the hospital, okay? So there was this hesitant look on his face, and then all of a sudden there was this flash of determination. I could see it in his eyes. He said, "This is going to hurt." And then he delivered the baby, who just happened to be breech. So the baby, when he showed me Tim was completely blue. I've never seen such a blue before or since. His APGAR scores, if you're familiar with that, basically life signs, were 0 for 10 minutes. He was in the ambulance. He was on his way to the hospital. And I was getting into, and the paramedic was doing CPR on my son. And I was getting in the other ambulance, and it just dawned on me. I had forgotten all about it. You have this scripture memorized. You're supposed to say it now. So I did. When we put all of our numbers together, as far as time and everything else, we figured out that it was when I was saying that scripture out loud that my son took a gasp of breath. And it was definitely a miracle that the paramedic was down the street. There were other miracles involved in the story. But the very funny thing that happened after all of that was that they were, of course, he was in NICU for 3 weeks, and they were looking for all kinds of things to be wrong with him, lack of oxygen and so on. And in one afternoon, I see a pediatric neurosurgeon came up and looked at him, and my son was having trouble putting down his legs. They were kind of like stuck in an upward position. She said, there's something terribly wrong with his legs. We're going to have to, figure out what it is, and then maybe there's going to be some surgery or therapy or something involved. I looked at that little boy, and I looked at his pajamas, and I thought, my first son wore those, and he was shorter than this one. I said, you know what, I think those pajamas are too small. She unzipped them and down went his legs. He's been fine ever since.